the Miracles and Millions show. This is your go-to show for living a life of miracles, where we're taking the limits off what you believe is possible. It's time to play big, be bold, and shine bright. I'm your host, Michelle Humphrey. Hello, and welcome to the Miracles and Millions podcast show. This is your host, Michelle Humphrey. Hey, I'm so happy to be your host, and a fun little tidbit of information is today is our 21st episode. So whether you have been with me from the very beginning or you're just tuning in for the first time, I truly welcome you. And normally the format is I've either done a solo show or I've had an amazing guest and I've interviewed them. Well, we're going to switch it up just a little bit today. I'm going to be interviewed by someone that I've already had on the show, Robert MacPhee. You may have remembered him. He has his own podcast and talks about how to make excellent decisions. And a few weeks back, he interviewed me to be on his podcast. And you'll see why he's asked me a question. And if you will, I've taken the ball and run with it. Is prior to the show, he had honestly just lost his mother very soon before, a week or two beforehand. And he felt like he didn't want to cancel on me. He had canceled on me actually a few weeks earlier when his mom was really sick. And so he was like, you know what? I know it's optimal to have Michelle. And so he said prior to the show that, you know what, just, ask a question, maybe take the ball and run, just kind of help carry the show. Because he just felt like maybe, he wasn't going to be able to be as present as he normally was. So I was like, listen, you got it. I'm so here to support you. Thank you. And this whole bit. And it actually turned out to be a really good interview. And he said something along the lines of, you know what, if you even want to use this for your show, go right ahead. So actually, after listening to it, I was like, you know what, this is kind of fun. So you'll get the treat of hearing me be interviewed on my show as an episode here. So have fun with that. Enjoy our conversation. And I do look forward to, if you have any questions for me or my team of coaches, or you just feel like, you know what, you're just really wanting to take your life to the next level, or maybe really struggling in some part of your business, reach out. We have multiple ways to support you. And you can do that by going to michellehumphrey.com/call and setting up an appointment, or just even reply to the emails that you might be getting regarding the show. If you're only hearing this right now on iTunes or one of the other platforms, what you certainly can do is just, send my team an email at Michelle, MICHELLE, at True, TRUE, World, WORLD, Global, GLOBAL.com. We are so here to support you, to celebrate you, to actually inspire you to go to the next level and live a life that you love, one that's filled with miracles and also millions of blessings, millions of dollars, millions of everything that you've wanted, because you deserve it. Okay, enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the Excellent Decisions podcast. This is Robert MacPhee, your host, and my guests and I are here to help you make more excellent decisions. Decisions based on your vision, your values, and your value, rather than external stress and pressure of, which we all know we are faced with plenty of in today's world. And the intention is to help you thrive, to help you achieve at a really high level, to accomplish great things, but also to be truly happy. And by truly happy, we use the ancient Greek definition of happiness, the experience of joy while in pursuit of your potential. And my guest today is someone who I met relatively recently, but we've had the chance to be engaged in several really fun and deep, profound conversations. Her name is Michelle Humphrey, and I'll tell you a little bit about her, but she definitely embodies this idea of thriving and being truly happy. So you're going to get that experience today. Michelle is the leading authority on business growth and development for conscious business owners. As a business coach for over 19 years, she's helped thousands of business owners around the world experience rapid growth and prosperity. She's the creator of the powerful, life-changing More Money, Less Work program. How does that sound? And the Financial Stress Eliminator Blueprint. Michelle is a co-star in the film Pass It On and a #1 best-selling author in the Wake Up and Live the Life You Love series. Today, she's on a mission to share her secrets that have allowed her to effortlessly double, triple, and then 10x her own business so that more people around the world can experience the immensely fulfilling lifestyle her and her clients experience every single day. She lives in San Diego with her outstanding husband. I wish my wife would call me outstanding. I don't know if she ever does. She might say that like he's outstanding in front of the house, maybe.
No.
And their amazing 8-year-old son. So Michelle, welcome. I'm glad we have the chance to reconnect, and welcome to the Excellent Decisions podcast.
Thank you so much. I really am honored to be here. And, just to say, it's been a joy to connect. Even though it's been a handful of conversations, they've always really touched my heart. And you're just
amazing. We had the really amazing experience of, first of all, and Michelle is also the host of the Miracles and Millions podcast, and I had the opportunity to be guest on her podcast. So we had so much fun that time. We had to reverse roles, and now she's on my podcast. But it was such an engaging and wonderful conversation. I was telling you before we hit record that a lot of the language that you use is very similar, and I know you're just perfectly in alignment with this whole idea of excellent decisions. And we even found out that we have mutual friends at the end of our first conversation.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
very
small world. So let's start by looking at kind of what brought you to where you are today. The bio talks about kind of the work that you're doing now and helping conscious business owners and entrepreneurs to grow their business and be successful. But what has led you? Tell us a little about your personal story that's led you to this place.
Yeah, and really that goes back about 21 years ago, Robert. It was 1999, and I was just really, to be transparent, having a very tough year in my life. Just a lot had happened. I had gone through a divorce. I felt like, I was struggling in my career and what I really wanted to do. At that point, I was 32 years old, right? And it just felt like, all the stuff that I'd been working for felt like, to be honest, it was all falling apart. And I wasn't really happy in my career. Like I said, I was ending a marriage after, multiple years. I was just struggling from that joy, right? That happiness that we were looking for. And a very dear friend of mine, funny enough, our common friend who also knows my other friend, gave me a book called Effortless Prosperity. And my gut reaction was when they gave me the book, I said, those two words don't go together, effortless and prosperity, right? And, this particular friend, his name is Bob, he laughed and he was like, it's not a book you read cover to cover. It's a book that you do one lesson a day for 30 days. I was like, oh, that's different. Never done that. And, went to take the book. And as I went to take the book, he literally pulled it out of my hand. And he goes, I'm not giving this to you unless you totally commit to doing these lessons every single day for 30 days. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And he literally pulled it out of my hand again. He goes, no, are you committed? Are you really all in? I'm like, do I want to take the book? But I felt like the intensity and I felt like, wow, all right, I'm really going to do this. And it was November of 1999. He actually gave it to me on the second day of November. So he was like, go back, read lesson 1, catch up, do all this stuff. And I was like, okay. And do you think I can even remember to do the lessons every single day? I mean, I was so committed and I think I was still getting piecemealed here and there. And, I'd have the book, I'd like leave the house. It wasn't digital, that I could look it up on the internet or anything, right? And I'd be like, oh, I forgot to read the book. Or like I'm laying in bed and I'm like, oh man, didn't read it. I'll read it tomorrow type of thing. But I had probably gotten about half, 20 lessons in of the 30. And by the end of the month, I'm going, you know what? I think I feel better. So I don't know if you remember that time in your life, December 1999. It was such a big, Y2K. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I'm going to end this decade on a high note. So I wound up ordering multiple books. So I had one at home, one in my purse, one at work, like just multiple places. Like every single day I was writing things on my hand. And I had like such an incredible month. And so much about the book, it's based on A Course of Miracles. And at first, it's all about building on what are you saying? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are you focusing on? What meanings are you giving things, right? And then it starts opening up to, I don't know the real meaning of what I see. And then everyone's wanting to contribute to you and like you're prosperous and you're abundant, and like all the stuff that I did not really believe. But the book was helping me to open that up in my world. And by the end of December, I felt like a different person. I really did. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like come 2000, I am starting off 2000. I'm doing this book every single day of 2000. In the end, I did. And a couple months into this, I met the author of the book, Bijan, Bijan Anjomi, he just really goes by Bijan, who wrote Effortless Prosperity. And in March, I mean, you want to talk about joy and someone who embodied joy. When I met him, I remember thinking he is the lightest, brightest person I've ever met on the planet. And he was so happy. And he had this laugh out loud, walk in, light up a room personality. And I was just blown away. And we got to know each other, and you talk about excellent decisions. One of the most excellent decisions I ever made was to hire him as a coach for me. And how that even came about was I was working in corporate America. I had, gone to college. I was bred from go to college, go get a good job, right? Like I just thought like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. And so I'm 11 years into my corporate career and, I'd worked my way up and now I'm in management and, actually kind of feeling okay about it. But, there was just something in my soul that wasn't like thriving, right? And I used to think like, oh my God, I'm in my young 30s. Can I do this for another 40 years? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to make it, right? And so I meet this man, Bijan, and you get into the normal conversations. What do you do? What do you do for a living? Oh, I work for corporate America. I work for AT&T at the time. What do you do? Da, da, da. And he said, well, like how much money do you make? And I'm like, oh, and I'm thinking I'm doing fairly well compared to a lot of people. It's, I make about $65,000 a year. And he's like, how many hours do you work? And I was like, yeah, I kind of hit the high end, 45, 50, 55 hours. And he had this, I swear, it was like a horrified look on his face. He's like, oh my God, you work so many hours for so little money. And I had this, thank you very much. Like, I didn't know what to say to that. Everyone's, used to be like, oh my God, you're doing well. You're making that much money. And it was just like this whole thing. He was telling me, about the universe and, how to, if you will, put things out into the universe. And I mean, it sounded like he was a Martian from another planet, if I really got honest with you. It was like that far out of my comfort zone. But there was this little baby part of me that said, well, suppose, because I got used to like 4% raise each year. And you kind of had this like program of, well, this is what you can expect. And I was getting what I was expecting. But I said, suppose I can make, instead of 4%, like 10% more, right? Like, 10% felt like, wow. And 10% more and just maybe work less hours. I'm thinking like a 40-hour week versus 45, 50 sometimes. And that's when I knew like I had to hire him. And back then, if you go back into 2020 years ago, coaches, I knew like Michael Jordan had a coach, but I didn't think normal, if you will, business people had coaches, but he really offered to like work with me and help me shift my mindset. And I was like, all right, like, what is this going to look like? And I actually put out a goal. I was like, well, if I'm going to go for double, I'm like 150 really felt like the number, not just 130, 65 double, but I'm like 150. And then he said, well, how many hours would you really want to work? And, that was crazy. I'm like, I can't choose that. Like, I'm thinking I got to work 60 hours a week to do this. And I was like, well, I think in my ideal world, it would be like half, like 20, 25. So we said 150,000 working 20, 25 hours a week. And Robert, if I could tell you, I'm just like, I didn't tell anyone. I'm like, people are going to think I've lost my freaking marbles over here if I tell them that's my goal. But each week we started like working together and just like, what's blocking me to believe that? And I'm like, everything. I like every, but through the year we like chipped away at it. And I kept this little vision in my wallet. So every time I opened it, it was like, okay, I knew what I was doing. And he just said, just keep thanking the universe. And I'm like, okay. Right. And do you know about 7-8 months later, I'm in Hawaii. I used to work for Tony Robbins and I meet this woman and she's, just like full of life, full of energy. And we're connecting and talking. And it's like, what do you do? And she's like, oh, it's like, I'm a business coach. And I was like, wow, like you're a business coach. There's business coaches. And I was like, well, what can you do to, what do you make doing that? And she's like, oh, I've only started a couple of years ago, but she's go, I make about 150. And I'm like, what? And that's, connecting to something in me. Cause that's like my goal. That's what I want to make.
Yeah.
I was like, well, how many hours do you really put in doing? She goes, you know what? I've set it up where I work about 20 to 25 hours a week. And when I tell you that was verbatim, like what I wrote out and I had this, my gosh, right? And I liked her and what she did. And as we got talking, I'm like, I was born for this. I can talk all day long. And, and I found out like what she did. And I took some classes and I got certified, and it just became this thing. It's like, oh my gosh, can I make $150,000 a year doing this? And I was still working corporate America. And when I started talking to Bijan, my mentor, and he goes, oh my gosh, he goes, you could head up a coaching program for me. And I could head up a coaching program because he was doing his own coaching, but he didn't have like coaches underneath him. And I just had this, I know his stuff now, forward and backwards. I go to his events, I go to his seminars. And so me and then at the time, John, who's now my husband of 18 years, but he was my fiance, we went for it and we got certified. We took, a couple outside courses, and then through Bijan, we did a whole certification and he certified us. And for 4 years, I worked for him. And do you know that year, honest to God, with no exaggeration, I had made, this was so interesting. I had made $145,000. I left corporate America, started working for him, coaching. And at the end, I had made like $145,000 working about 20 to 25 hours a week. And I really remember saying like, man, I wonder why I got so close, but I didn't hit like the 150, right? And I had this, because he was always saying how exact the universe is and it always finds a way to meet you. And do you know, like a week or two later, I had gotten a severance check in the mail or, something from AT&T, and it was like $5,200 and something. And I was like, oh my God.
I'm sorry for doubting you, universe.
Yeah, right. Like, and it was that. And it was like game on. And it really has been this game on where, the following year I said, we are doubling this again. And I went on to make over $300,000. Right. And then, sometimes universe has a sense of humor because then we're like, man, we're going to go for at least 600 and, go on. And then, a couple of years into this one, we were really starting to just get like, we can do anything, we had this experience where I think we were so outside of our comfort zone and we were going for a business that truthfully I thought was going to make us millions. And the universe gave us a little detour. I had left my corporate job at this point. My husband had left his corporate job. Like we were full on entrepreneurs, and we started this infomercial actually to let the world know of our little secret that we had tapped into. And it was right after 9/11. And what, I'm thinking over here, we're going to help the world recover from 9/11 and focus on where we're going and what it is that we want to create and all this stuff. And there's a whole story to this, but the very bottom line of that story is not only did the infomercial bomb in a gigantic way, it sent us $858,000 into debt. And it was one of the most challenging times of our lives because it was, what happened? Like, where's the universe conspires to help me? Where's the, everything I focus on manifest? Like this was not on my vision board, type of energy. And I got really caught up in it for a good solid 9 months. I mean, 9 months of stress, 9 months of couldn't figure out what the heck happened. How could the universe do this to me? Like, don't you get, I was one of the good ones. Like, I mean, I couldn't get out of my own way. I had victim story after victim story, and it was so much bigger than me, Robert. I mean, $858,000. I'm like, I don't know what to do to get out of this mess. And that's where I think a lot of people get stuck, right? Like they're so stuck in this. They know what's showing up in their world doesn't feel good, but it's this, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to change this. And that really hooked my husband through this whole thing. That debt happened 2 months before our wedding in March. May 18th, we were getting married. So when I tell you I got married with like this giant, I used to call it a black cloud hanging over me. It was, oh my God, it was such a challenging time. But here's the miracle. And this is really why I've gone on to even be known as the business miracle expert, because no matter what is showing up for someone, right? Even if it feels like, I don't know what to do. And that's so where I was. My husband and I, $858,000 in debt. We had bill collectors calling us. We had no money coming in at this point because we had invested it all in an infomercial that bombed, and we had no more money to invest into it. But after 9 months of pretty much a disastrous pity party, even though Bijan the whole time was saying, this is here to bless you. This is here, like, this is going to help to catapult you into your greatness. And I was like, shut up. Like, I can't hear this from you. But the miracle was, and I actually had to find a different mentor who basically needed to tell me the same thing. It was so interesting. Sometimes you can't hear it from certain people, but it was, as I was telling him, the scenario and, so scared, so overwhelmed, can't figure this out. And he goes, well, you're just part of your own problem. And I was like, what does that mean? And he's like, all you're doing is focusing on what's wrong, what didn't work, how you messed up, who you want to blame, pity party. And I'm like, what else am I supposed to do? Like, look at my mess over here. And he was the one who really taught me like more of the laws of the universe and the importance of, no matter what is going on, to really still focus and be able to see the end result and see what it is that you want. And, the only thing I knew that I wanted was to be out of debt. And he's like, well, that's not a very compelling vision and goal. And he's like, what do you really want? And all this stuff. And we started going, the impact that I wanted to make. And of course, yes, I wanted to be out of the debt and have the money to do what I wanted to do. And like, we all have that, right? Like, we all have what it is. And here's what I know I can tell you now after 20 years of being a business coach. People are just scared to death to put their heart into it because they're scared it's going to fail. They're scared they're not going to get what they want. And I was so that way. I mean, it was like, I went for something big and I got so burned. How do I put my heart into something, right? But, again, through the help of mentors, and my God, mentors and coaches have changed my life. And so, and this mentor was saying, well, you got to start feeling the way that you want to feel. Right. And like, how do I want to feel? Well, wealthy. And I know you and I have very similar definitions of wealth, right? It's not just about money. It's about your whole being. And these, I call it love and above. Actually, one of my little bracelets that I wear is love and above, right? It's like you want to feel the love and the joy and the peace and the happiness and the health and the abundance, right? And so I got it really clear on, well, how did I want to feel and how did I want to be and show up in the world and what my life looked like? And I'm not here to sugarcoat this. It did not happen overnight. And, when I was focusing on feeling wealthy, it's like, how do you feel wealthy when you're $858,000 in debt? I had bill collectors calling me. And here's honestly what I started doing is holding. I mean, I remember going to my purse and saying, all right, like I got to get some money and I got to like hold on to it and start feeling wealthy. And I don't know if you've ever hit a low like this, but I go to my wallet and I went to get out, a couple dollar bills at least. I had nothing. I had no dollar bills. I didn't have $1 in my purse. I had change. I was like, oh, this is going to be a long journey. And so I would swear to you, I'm holding pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters in my hand. I'm like, okay, thank you. I'm so wealthy. My brain is like, shut up, you loser. You were not wealthy. And it just was this, you had to start with where you were. And it days of just crying before I could even allow myself to feel wealthy because I just felt so broken and so messed up. But what was interesting is probably about a week later, I got a $2 rebate check in the mail. I mean, $2, right? But I had this little, well, that was kind of surprise money. I didn't plan on that, and if maybe there's that, maybe there is more. And I just kept, thank you, God. Thank you for, opening up and your favor and flooding me with unexpected, money and resources. And like, there's a way to not only turn this debt around, but to, have all the money to do what it is that I want to do when I want to do it. Right. Which were like, I was choking on those words. I couldn't even get them out of my mouth, really. But I stayed with it, believing somehow something was happening in the invisible world. And it was about a week or two later, I literally found $5, like a $5 bill. And I had this, and it was blowing in the street. And my husband and I were, just out for a walk and stuff. And I was like, I found $5. I found $5. And, he's like, okay, it's $5, honey. Yeah, I'm like, but it's $5, and I was so excited. And with no exaggeration, and each time it was taking like a week or two more. And I found someone literally must have dropped it walking on like a trail, like two $20 bills. They were, folded up like, in quarter. And I was like, $40. Now I'm like, something is happening, right? And I'm like, and my brain's like, okay, Michelle, it's $40. You're $858,000 in debt. Like, God, we got to start speeding some stuff up here. But I'm going, something, I've never found money like that. I found, pennies, nickels, dimes, right? And then no exaggeration, we're probably like 6, 7, 8 weeks into this whole shift in my energy. And I swear to you, I found $100 bill, like $100 bill. And there was nobody around. I'm like I was scared to pick it up going, who's watching me? Am I on, hidden camera over here? The second I go to pick it up, something's going to snap at me, And I'm like touching it. It's like, is that real? And I'm like, it's $100 bill. And then I was like, is this real or is this just fake? Someone's messing with me. But in the end, it was real. And I came home. And when I tell you, I was now holding money in my hands, like, thank you, I am rich. Thank you, I am abundant. And I started like really seeing like it just wasn't 100. It was like I put another zero on it, like it's 1,000. And then I put like a couple zeros and it's 10,000, 100,000. I'm like, I'm open to receive from all sources, and I'm just in this, crazy energy. And it got to the point, and I'm here to tell you, like, this took months for me to do this. It was about 4 months into it. And this energy, somehow something shifted inside of me that said, this is a blessing. Of course I had to go $858,000 in debt to go on to create, millions and the money that I wanted. Like, how do you do that if you think $858,000 is so much money? And I was in this, I am so rich. I am so wealthy. I'm so prosperous. Like, this is a blessing. And I changed my energy so much. Meanwhile, nothing in the outer world had really changed. We still had bill collectors calling us. If, you can understand, like, this was a total inner world shift. So much so that one of my best friends, who still is one of my best friends, had known the beginning of this story, right? Like, she had known I was so stressed, what had happened. Oh my God, so sorry for me, this whole thing. And then she still lives in New Jersey. Actually, I live in California. So I don't know, it was about 4 months into it. She had come out and she came out for a visit, and she's just seeing me like, this is so great. I am so excited. Like, we have this experience of this debt. And I was freaking her out to the point, Robert, she said, can I, like, like a scared way. She's like, can I ask you a question? I was like, yeah, like what? And she goes, do you think you're losing your mind? It was that type of concern for me. And it's like one of my best friends. And I had to really take that on and say, you know what? Yes, I am. And it's the greatest thing to do, right? Like, I am losing these old perceptions. I am losing this limited way of thinking. And I had this like freedom that I had never had before in my life. And do you know, within another week or two or so after that, we wound up attracting this investor that literally came in. We sold off everything on the company. I mean, so much of it was product and infomercial products and stuff. And we wound up selling off everything. And they took all the product, which, there was a lot of money within the products, and literally took over the note for our debt. And overnight, for all intents purposes, we were out of debt. And I was with that same girlfriend that night, and, she had known the whole story, beginning, end, middle, everything. And she said to me, she goes, is this the most unbelievable thing that has ever happened to you? And after I really almost said yes, I took that in and I said, no. I go, something inside of me believed. Something inside of me had a faith. Actually, that's my t-shirt, right now that says this, I am a faith-filled woman. It is some part of me allowed myself to believe, to have so much faith, which the best definition of faith that I've ever heard, it's faith. It's a mental attitude that is so fully convinced of its own idea that it so completely accepts it that there's no part of you left over to think that it's impossible, that it wouldn't happen. So meaning my mind got so convinced that this $858,000 debt was here to bless us. I was so convinced that there was a solution. I was so convinced that something was going to happen to turn this around without proof, right? I had no logical proof. And when I was so convinced and I so knew it beyond any doubt, really, which is the point of manifestation, the universe conspired to find a way to help us create something that was so unlogical. Not in 5 million years, if someone told me at any point earlier, you're going to attract an investor, you're going to sell off your company for $1. They're going to take all the product and take the note, and overnight you're going to be out of debt. And it's that'll never happen, right? There was no logic to it. But that's what happens in the universe, right? When you can get so fully convinced, and it's not words. I know there's this stuff on law of attraction out there, and then there's this, say it and think it and believe it type of thing, right? It's a belief that goes into every cell of your body. Like even Think and Grow Rich, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it'll achieve. That's very true. But people can conceive things, but I'm here to tell you 99% of people never allow themselves to really believe it without seeing it. Like if they see it, they'll believe it, but they don't know how to believe it before they see it. And that's where the magic happens in the universe. You've got to believe it. You got to have faith. You've got to have a knowingness that is so fully convinced inside of you with no logical proof.
So you are the perfect podcast guest because I get to ask you one question and then I can grab a glass of lemonade and kick back and just listen and scribble notes. But here's the thing. Here's what I want to say to the audience. I want to say hit pause and rewind and listen to that story again, because within that story, and again, I do appreciate you making it so easy for me because I don't have to dig in. But within that story, I'll just pull out a couple things that just jumped out at me. Like what an incredible friend you had at the beginning of that story who didn't just hand you that book. He held on to it and he made sure you understood what it meant to make a commitment. Not just say, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. That sounds like a good idea. But no, seriously, are you really going to do this? Not just a goal, not just a dream, but a commitment, right? And that's different. He forced you to, or gave you the opportunity, he didn't force you, he gave you the opportunity to look at that and really understand what it means to make a commitment, which is a really important element, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's also there's several times in here about, 20 years to create an overnight success, right? Several times through that story, you didn't give up after a day or a week or a month. You said it was 7-8 months before you started kind of getting some traction. And that's kind of the way it works. And then you got it going on and everything's great. And whammo, right?
Whammo, yes.
Yeah. And a big one, not a ball peen hammer. We're talking sledgehammer here. And yet there's just so many really valuable lessons in there about how it works, right? How it works to become more successful.
The greatest thing, now that I've been a coach for 20 years is, I'm not a sugarcoater, right? I'm not here to tell you that it's a straight path up to success. What happens is, and, I think this is basic 101 personal development, right? Start with the end in mind. But to think that you're going to get there and not hit bumps in the road, as I like to call them, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah.
You're just absolutely fooling yourself. But there is this success is inevitable if you stay the course, if you welcome the challenges that show up along the way. And, that's really part of my specialty is this, helping people to embrace what does show up. I mean, I know probably a lot of people have heard whatever you resist persists, right? But what I realized many years ago, and I've never heard someone else say this other than me, is whatever you embrace, you erase. I realized through that journey, I spent 9 miserable months. When I was so stressed about that $858,000 debt, I mean, Robert, there was many, many nights I wasn't sleeping. I started seeing a therapist. She thought I should go on Valium or something, right? I was that freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
I, at one point, was pulling out chunks of my hair and holding globs of hair in my hand going, oh God, I think I have a problem. And I couldn't stop the emotion. I was flipping out. But here's what the thing is, I wasn't embracing it. I was, resisting everything about this, labeling it as, this is a nightmare. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Right. And of course it was, if that's the label I'm going to put on it. But it took like I said, I can help people navigate this so much quicker than I did. But when I realized, oh my gosh, Bijan just kept saying, this is here to bless me. I couldn't even hear it as a blessing. But if you can see literally everything on the planet, even COVID, right now, I know we're still dealing with, all of that. And I keep coming, and it's been challenging. I'm here to tell you, I've definitely had my moments. I can, I know people who are very, very affected by this, not just from the physical, but more from the financial scenarios of how it's having an impact. And it's just and sometimes I'm that person's it's here to bless us. It's here. And they're like, screw you. Like, this is not a blessing. This is ruining me. This is, like, I get it. I know it. I understand. I want to cry with them. But it's this, if we don't set it up as a nightmare, it can't be a nightmare. It is here to bless us. It's here to heal something that's inside of you. And I believe in the highest sense of everything and what's going on with COVID is there's a global healing going on. And right now it looks messy. It looks, like if you've ever done a physical detox, right? Sometimes if you're really toxic and you start detoxing, it's painful. It's messy. And I really believe that's what's happening on a global scale right now. But there's so many beautiful, beautiful magic miracle things that are coming out of this if we can, if you will, stay in that energy. And, and I was very transparent with Robert at the beginning. I said, in the beginning, I was working double time. I was doing everything I can. I felt like I was supporting, an army of people. And, a couple months into this, I was like ready to crash myself. And I had to back off, and I really had to, Michelle, the best thing that you can do is take care of your own energy. Right. And, I just really dialed down my schedule, and I just, everyone's like, this is the time and you got to pivot. And, I'm helping my business owners. I'm like, I don't know, like, to do stuff in that energy with sacrificing yourself. It's never been my experience the best. And it's like, let's love ourselves. Let's take care of ourselves. Let's fill ourselves up. Let's come from love. Let's come from, okay, what's the end result? And really know that here's the truth. The universe is always conspiring to help us. If we are fully aligned to what it is, making excellent decisions, right? Like, I love who you are and what you're about. We make an excellent decision, and the decision that my language is that God has put in your heart has been stamped yes. And we just got to say thank you and embrace that. And, my language is God, lead me, guide me, show me, use me, right? You put this in my heart. There's got to be a way. I get it looks messy and, this doesn't even look logical anymore, but what's that solution? And the more we can tune into that, I just believe that our world is going to be so gorgeous, in the end of it.
All right. So with you, I got to do like lightning round here. So, because there's two more questions I want to ask. And this is so awesome because I think people can get a real sense of the value of the work that you're doing and the way that you can help people. And there were two things that we touched on in the introduction. And one was that you said you deal with conscious business owners. So give us just, and again, like, I'm watching the clock. We gotta pay attention here. But give us, give us a snapshot of when you say conscious business owners, like, what does that mean? Because I think different people look at it in different ways.
The work of Dr. David Hawkins has changed the quality of my life. He is the author of multiple books, with the most famous is Power versus Force. And there's something in there called the map of consciousness. And what really consciousness is how much awareness you have to truth compared to falsehood. And the whole book is about truth versus falsehood. And someone who's in a low level of consciousness, or, you know it in our language, right? Someone who's unconscious, they have no awareness, right? Drunk, whatever, passed out, fell on the sidewalk. There's no consciousness there. But what it means, if you will, like in the business world, is how conscious are you to grow your business from integrity? How conscious are you to create win-wins? How conscious are you to really come from, a loving solution that I like to call it a triple win. It's a win for you. It's a win for me. It's a win for the greater good, right? I'm all about something called love and above. So on the map, 0 through 1,000, at 500, it starts the consciousness of love, and then it goes into joy, and then it goes into peace. It's something powerful that when you are growing a business from a consciousness point, it's not just about you. You don't trample over people to get to where it is that you want to go. And every solution is based in love and above.
Okay. So what you're really saying is that's a whole separate podcast episode just in that one question.
We could do that too.
Okay. All right. So here's the third podcast episode that we're going to squeeze into like 2 minutes. And again, I just love how the language you use is so like, it just layers with what I do. We talk about excellent decisions, and I listen to you and the stress and pressure that you've had to deal with in your life. You talk about that $858,000. That's some serious stress and pressure, right? And it's sounds good to say, oh no, make decisions based on your vision and your values and your value. But that's exactly what you decided to do. You leaned into it, and again, it's a great example. But the other word I want to dive into is the word wealth. And I know you've described an amazing roller coaster in the area of wealth, but I also know you have a unique way of looking at wealth and defining wealth and helping people create more true wealth in their life. So can you talk a little bit about what you mean by wealth?
Yeah, for me, rich is the word for money. Rich is like, hey, have the money to do what it is that you want to do when you want to do it. And I believe that we're all wired for that. And, I always kind of come from this perspective of our clients that money it's just a tool, right? It's to have a lot of money. It's so interesting. There's so much emotional charge on money in itself. So, but I really do kind of language that with, okay, let's get you rich. But I also say rich and wealthy, because wealthy is, you are wealthy in all aspects of your life. You're wealthy in love. You're wealthy with your energy, right? Like, let's have the energy, physical energy, to do what it is that you want to do when it is that you want to do it, right? Let's have an abundance of love that you feel so connected and so supportive. And that's where, I don't believe you could just have money and have a great life, right? If you don't have the relationships and you don't have the physical well-being, you're not a wealthy person in the way that I look at it. And my other really strong belief, and I'd be remiss if I didn't really talk about it, is, I feel like I allow the power of God to flow through me, right? It's not even my will. It's the will of God. I meditate every single day. And one of the big things that I constantly say is, God, lead me, guide me, show me, use me. And because I've learned through the years, if I get into what I call my little pea brain, I can make a muck of things quickly, And I even started to do this through COVID. Like, I was just in almost like a reactionary mode with so much stuff going on. And it was exhausting me, to be honest. And when I really tuned in and said, God, I'm going to ask for guidance. I'm going to ask for what's most optimal. That's when it was, what? Give yourself a break, tune in. And, I had that almost conflict of like, oh, there's so many people and I'm running around. But it was the best thing for me. And it was the best thing for them, because I wasn't coming from like a frazzled energy. The parts that I was doing, and, the clients, I have a bunch of clients, but, and I'm showing up for them, but it's this, I feel nurtured, because the first couple of weeks, probably like everyone, I mean, you're stuck in the house, you're eating, I don't know about you, but like, our family just felt like, what else to do? All right, what do you want to eat? What do we do? We're just like eating. And I'm like up, I don't know, 4 or 5 pounds or something. And I'm going, where am I going to be if I keep doing this? And you know what? I decided we're not playing that game. And I started taking care of myself. And I'm not only did I get off those 5 pounds, I'm down another couple pounds. And I'm just like, nope, taking care of myself here and not coming out with, I think I heard the language, the COVID-15.
Yeah.
No, not coming out of this with
Awesome.
I did that as a freshman. I don't need to gain 15 pounds again as a COVID survivor.
All right. Yeah. Well, God, I'm so mad at my timer here, like telling me we have to wrap up. But the final question I want to ask you is just, if people want to know more, if they want to connect with you, they want to learn more about your work and what you're up to, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways. Michelle, my name is Michelle, Michelle, Humphrey, Humprey. So michellehumphrey.com is my website, but michellehumphrey.com/call, CALL. What I have a team of coaches also. And what we've been really doing in this, unique moment in history is helping to support people who are challenged, who are struggling, who are, not making great decisions or just stuck. Right. And we do have a pretty extensive coaching team and myself. And if you're liking what I'm saying and you just need free resources, I have a 30-day challenge that people can do. It's called Shifting Up into More Peace and Prosperity. I'm willing to give that free. It's just, you'll get the lessons of Effortless Prosperity, the book that changed my life. I have it in digital form, and, I'll send them out in bite size. It's 1 email per day, right? So they can get that from me. And the way to do that is, so you can call to speak to michellehumphrey.com/call to speak to one of the coaches, or at michellehumphrey.com/peace, PEACE and prosperity, PROSPERITY, michellehumphrey.com/peace and prosperity. You can just sign up for the lessons of Effortless Prosperity. And I'm just more than happy to, put that information out to the world. The lessons are so simple. I've done 2 months in a row, a 30-day challenge on Facebook. You can get live videos that can deepen the lessons. So just anything that we can do to, support people in time and history, I'm in for.
Awesome. Well, you really are. You're like the easiest podcast guest I ever had. Like, I feel like I just got to go along for the ride. And anybody who does take advantage of that opportunity to connect with Michelle and her team, I suggest you get a seatbelt and get ready to go for a little ride, because clearly they go full speed. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your story, which is so compelling. And again, I encourage people to rewind, listen to that again. And if you weren't taking notes already, take notes, because there's so many valuable lessons in there about what it takes and how it works. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It's really been a joy being here with you, and just to acknowledge who you are. I know with your mom passing, and just being here is, I probably took the ball and ran a little bit, just because she was like, I can do that.
I needed a day off.
Support you, and that's really where I think it came from. So I don't know.
No, and I
you're
appreciate
amazing.
that. No,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And Michelle and I were talking before we hit record that it's a little bit more than a week, just a week and a couple of days since my mom passed. And I was sharing with her that I've been clearing a lot of my calendar, but I saw this conversation, and having talked to Michelle in kind of conversations like this before being on her podcast, I felt really, really comfortable with kind of keeping this one on the calendar, and I'm really glad I did. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
And to our guests, thank you for joining us for the Excellent Decisions podcast. You can tell that Michelle is 100% with me in terms of helping support you make more decisions, live your life in alignment with your vision, your values, your value, rather than all of that stress and pressure that we're faced with, so you can thrive, achieve at a high level, accomplish great things, and have that experience of true happiness, the experience of joy while in pursuit of your potential. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Be a part of the conversation on Facebook and become a Miracles and Millions manifester at michellehumphrey.com/connect. Let's play together, because living miracle-minded is the gift you give yourself that has a massive impact on others and paves the way to make you millions. Your time is now.